Power doesn't always come from protest. Sometimes it comes from a courtroom, and sometimes the most important battles in history are fought by the people nobody remembers. This is one of those people. In 1898, he stood alone against the United States government. He wasn't famous, he wasn't wealthy, but he was American, and they told him he wasn't. So he sued. And what happened next changed citizenship in the United States forever. This is the story of Wong Kim Ark, the immigrant son who took on the system and won. The late 1800s were brutal for Chinese immigrants in America. They had come in waves, especially during the gold rush and to build the railroads. Hardworking, quiet, mostly men, mostly poor. They were the backbone of entire industries, often given the most dangerous jobs, paid the lowest wages, and excluded from almost every opportunity to rise. But soon, white Americans began to feel threatened. They saw Chinese laborers not as contributors, but as competitors, people who worked for less, lived differently, looked different. Newspapers ran headlines warning of the yellow peril, politicians blamed economic downturns on the Chinamen, and mobs attacked Chinese neighborhoods, burning homes, lynching workers, driving entire communities out of towns. The racism was institutional, but it was also deeply personal. Chinese immigrants couldn't testify against white people in court. They were often blamed for crime and disease. They were even segregated in cemeteries. And in 1882, the United States passed something it had never passed before: the Chinese Exclusion Act, the first law in American history to ban immigration based on nationality. It wasn't just a law, it was a message. And it was enforced with zeal. Chinese immigrants were now treated as permanent foreigners. They couldn't become citizens, couldn't vote. Many couldn't even bring their wives or children. The goal was clear: don't let them grow roots, don't let them belong. And most importantly, they were now subject to harsh border checks, brutal interrogations, and constant threats of deportation, even after years of living peacefully in the United States. Wong Kim Ark was born in San Francisco in 1873. His parents, Chinese laborers from Guangdong province, had arrived in the United States at a time of, well, intense demand for cheap labor. But they lived under constant suspicion. So they returned to China when Wong was still young, while he remained in San Francisco, the only home he had ever known. That detail, his birthplace, mattered. Because of something called the 14th Amendment, passed after the Civil War, it said, all persons born in the United States are citizens. It was created to protect formerly enslaved people, to guarantee that birthright, not race, determined citizenship. But the amendment had never truly been tested outside of the context of slavery. Could it apply to the child of immigrants who were legally barred from becoming citizens themselves? Wong grew up in a city that, tolerated his presence but denied his belonging. He worked as a cook, paid his taxes, lived a quiet life. In many ways, his story wasn't remarkable, until it was. When Wong returned to the port of San Francisco, immigration officers stopped him. They reviewed his papers, questioned his story, investigated his background, and then they said the words that would, honestly, change his life. You're not a citizen. You can't come home. They locked him in detention. For weeks he was held, neither a visitor nor a prisoner, but in legal limbo. He was born in the United States, but to them, that didn't matter. To them, he was Chinese, not American, because of his race, because of his parents, because of the law. He could have accepted it. He could have gone back to China and disappeared into history, but he didn't. Wong Kim Ark did something almost no one else would have dared. He took the United States government to court. He challenged not just a policy, but a principle. And he asked a question that would, well, shake the foundation of American identity. If someone is born in America, can their country still reject them? The case was titled United States v. Wong Kim Ark. It drew attention but not sympathy. The press questioned his motives. Politicians worried about the consequences, and honestly, many Americans viewed him not as a citizen fighting for his rights, but as an outsider trying to break into a house that wasn't his. The government argued that Chinese immigrants were not subject to full US jurisdiction because they said they owed allegiance to the Emperor of China. Therefore, their children, even if born on US soil, were not true citizens. They warned that if Wong won, it would open the door to millions, that it would undermine American values, that it would flood the country with foreigners. They didn't say it out loud, but they meant immigrants of color. Wong's lawyers countered with a simple truth. The 14th Amendment was written to protect against exactly this kind of discrimination. It didn't list exceptions. It didn't say, unless their parents are Chinese. It said, all persons born in the United States are citizens. Period. The courtroom battle was fierce. Legal scholars debated English common law. They brought up the English principle of jus soli, the idea that birth within a territory grants citizenship. They compared it to jus sanguinis, citizenship by bloodline, favored by many European nations. The United States, they argued, was founded on a new idea, that citizenship wasn't inherited, it was earned by birth. The justices deliberated for months, and then in 1898 the Supreme Court delivered its decision. Wong Kim Ark won. A child born in the United States, even to parents who could not themselves become citizens, was by law a citizen. The court's decision was clear. The government could not pick and choose which children born on US soil counted as Americans. That ruling set a precedent that stands to this day. Every person born in the US, regardless of their parents' origin, is a citizen. That's why children born to immigrants, whether Irish, Mexican, Somali or Chinese, are full Americans by law, because of a man most people have never heard of. Wong Kim Ark didn't become a celebrity after the case. He didn't run for office, didn't write a memoir, didn't lead a movement. He returned to his quiet life in San Francisco. He faded back into history. But his victory echoed through generations. His case has been cited again and again in Supreme Court arguments, immigration rulings, and debates over who gets to be American. It was cited in 1982 in Plyler v. Doe, when the court ruled that undocumented immigrant children were entitled to public education. It was referenced in debates about anchor babies, and it still protects millions of Americans from losing their birthright. Today, as protests erupt over immigration policies, as ICE raids shake families, as birthright citizenship is challenged once again in the political arena, Wong Kim Ark's legacy grows more relevant because he showed that the Constitution isn't just a document, it's a shield for those willing to stand beneath it. Wong Kim Ark never intended to become a legend, but that's what he became. A quiet man, with a simple truth. I was born here. This is my home. And no government could say otherwise. Because of him, the phrase American citizen became something more powerful. Not a prize to be granted, but a right to be protected. Not the property of the powerful, but the birthright of the people. And that makes him one of the most important and most forgotten figures in American history. This was the man who sued the US and changed citizenship forever.